When I started recovery, I was 21 years old. I had an 8-week-old baby and a fairly new wife. I was desperate in that I could not stop doing drugs and alcohol. The time was where there were no rehabs. I had never heard of a rehab until the last night I used. And someone said that they were going to something called a drug rehabilitation. And I thought that was a grand idea. Never heard of that. I had a number for this man, Jim Wilborn. I had met him about a week before, and my wife wanted me to stop all this foolishness right away. He told me from the beginning I was just weak, and that all I needed was a good wife. And after we got married and I had a good wife, I was still using drugs. I saw Jim Wellborn in his office. I went to an office building and we talked. And he said, well, you told your wife that you were out partying with Sally. And Sally's your boss. So you've been kicked out. You've lost your baby. You lost your wife. And now Sally, who is your boss, you've lost your job. It sounds like you're at the lowest point of your life. And I agree. I said, why don't you put your keys down and walk around the corner with me? You're going to stay. And I said, well, I can't stay in an office. I don't know what you're doing. He said, no, it's okay. I go, what do you mean by stay? He goes, well, we have some doctors here and we're gonna treat you. And I did not know what that meant at all. So I walked around the corner, I went through some double doors, and down the hallway, there were rooms on each side like a hotel. And I'm walking down the hallway and I'm asking, where am I? What are we doing? He says, we help people get off drugs and alcohol here, and you're going to stay for a while. So I went to visit a guy, and they kept me. And that's how I got sober.
God doing for us what we cannot do for ourselves, or even know what we're doing for ourselves. Our mind as addicts, alcoholics, sometimes is just not our best friend.
I can't tell you how I ended up there. There was no other question than divine providence. I had no clue what I was walking into. No clue. And I can tell you, since that day, I have not used or taken a drink. So it was divine providence.
Gary, can you share with us how long you've been in this program of recovery?
The day I'm describing was March the 19th, 1984. Exactly 40 years.
Where you are today, can you look at your life and God still has his hand? Can you expound on how you see God in your life?
Well, I can say that I believe God's around. I believe we need him in good times. I need him in bad times. And just because I got sober doesn't mean life is going to lay off of me, because life will go on. Life will stay the same, and how we deal with that may be different. We always have a choice. I don't always know how long God's going to let something go until he actually steps in and gets it cleared up, and what I'm supposed to do to enable myself to be in the right spot for God. And therein lies the wisdom to know the difference.
Can you expound on how you see others in your life to help you through the most difficult times of your life?
I think the other elements of what happened to me was at the time in the early 80s, mid 80s, young people were not valued as members of 12-step. I went to a lot of meetings. Not one person looked at me, shook my hand, agreed, nothing. No hello, nothing. And I went to a lot of therapy. So I didn't really get sober in AA. I did get sober with the 12 steps. The therapist relied on variables of the 12 step. He didn't rely a lot on God, but he did rely on mining some of the things, if not all of them, that made me drink. And through that, I was encouraged to find God, to seek Him, and to start relying on something else. So my 12-step of recovery happened about 2 years after I quit using. And I found more young people around the 12-step system, and we started developing and creating our own 12-step programs. Not just new meetings, but completely new 12-step programs. Well, it makes sense to me. It makes more sense to people who are older. I was younger. I was very young. And so my mindset was what I learned on the streets, what I learned from my parents, and a dysfunctional family system. So I had to release a lot of things that I had built on my own. My own core belief system was faulty. Liquor and alcohol didn't make me faulty in a way that I had used liquor and alcohol to accept faulty systems. And I can't get to those faulty systems while I'm drinking and using. Can't do anything about them. And I hope that connects with your listeners.
And I'm sure it does, because I know the listener out there who's paying real close attention to the words that we're saying as recovering with some age behind us in this program, 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the awesome awareness that I cannot do this alone. Could you expound on that concept?
I can. The greatest benefit and tool that I use, and that is that it is a group effort. I have to avoid situations and be aware of how I'm feeling and what I'm doing. And then I have to recognize that under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have just avoided it. I would have gone right into it. So I don't know what kind of power I have to avoid that. And I give it to God. Sure. I am on my way now to go see somebody in rehab who stayed sober on her own for over a year. And she says, I was sober. But the fact that she turned and went solo, it had a deadline. And she wants to blame God for that deadline. And my expression of that is, we get a free gift. And we need to participate in gift giving. And then we give more gifts. We can't just take it, run, and we're done. Doesn't work.
I know that you're on the road, and I also know that life is difficult, maybe as it was in the beginning. But if I could pass on anything to my ex-sponsor, because we all sponsor each other, we all uphold each other, is that if I can pass on anything to you, it's a human thing. This human experience of care, of worry, of concern that I have for another human being. So I wanted to get to share with you that I love you, I respect you. I thank you so much, Gary, for sharing a part of your story. If you could finish just by letting us know that you are okay, that you will be okay, share a few things with us.
I'm going to be okay. I do not choose to create more problems today. I got enough problems. I have maybe more than I've ever had in life. And it's an option. Pick up a drink just to forget about them for 5 minutes. But if I think that through, I don't really want to live with 20 minutes of misery for 5 minutes of relief.
Gary, thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared with us today. I just can't tell you how much that you mean to me, and I know of the words of encouragement that you've given those out there, those persons out there who are listening to this podcast. Folks, how about a nice hand for Mr. Gary Etz?
Thank you for having me, and I hope to be on again soon.
Thank you again, Gary. And we love you very, very much.
All right, brother. We'll catch you on the flip side.